Hi, I'm Brian Draper and I work with leaders and organisations to help them to dig a little below the surface of their lives, to consider their soulfulness and their soul leadership. I'm here today to help us to think about how we can connect at a deeper level with who we are and from there with what we do. I'll be talking about one or two things such as mindfulness, and then going in to explore what living a soulful life might mean and how that might apply to an organisation. So it's really great to be here. I've been particularly excited just as I've gone to hear people beginning to talk about spiritual intelligence more and to begin to talk about soulfulness. But there does remain a problem in converting really nice ideas into reality. And I would say that is principally because people are too busy. So a few thoughts this morning, a few stories which I hope will join some dots for you and help you to be inspired to find more of the hidden depths of who you are and the way that you can act accordingly within the world. I was sitting in a coffee shop not long ago with a senior business leader. He was, on the surface of it, a successful guy. He grew a business, sold a business, cashed in, and was wondering what to do next. I explained to him why I call my own consultancy work echo sounding. Aside from the fact that the word came to me in a dream very vividly one night, I also find that I'm helping more and more people to look below the surface of their lives. There may be reefs and wrecks down there, but there is also treasure to be found too. And we need to know that it's all right, and in fact that it's imperative for us to stop to look for it. A tear emerged from behind the mask that businessman seemed to have been wearing. It's amazing how sometimes a face will change before you. I have lived my whole life skimming the surface of things, he said. I have been too afraid to look below it. This relationship between who we are and what we do, between our being and doing, if you like, is summed up for me by the metaphor of the Wellspring. There's one I found earlier. This is one that I go to quite a lot. This is quite close to my home. It's at a place called Mottisfont Abbey. It's a wonderful thin place, and the Wellspring, we know that people have met there since sort of time immemorial. The word Mottisfont actually is Anglo-Saxon for moot font, meeting around the font. People have been drawn to the Wellspring. It's never been known to run dry, even in the hottest summers, and we do have 1 or 2 hot summers in the UK. And I often go here to stand and to sort of get into a place that takes me beyond words. The depth psychologist Bill Plotkin says that the emphasis at the Wellspring is on action, on getting the business of the world done, but in every moment staying sourced in the mysteries, rooted in the creativity of the unfathomable depths. So this isn't about saying, hey guys, we've just got to check out, we've just got to go for a walk, we've just got to sit on the beach and learn to relax more. It is about understanding that our actions can flow from a deeper place. I wonder what for you is the source of wisdom, courage, faith, values, energy, life, love. As I think about my own children, it focuses my mind. Why shouldn't it? And it makes me think of what kind of world we hope to shape and to pass on to future generations. Tony Schwartz, the leadership expert who has written some fantastic stuff on energy, says the way we're working isn't working. The defining ethic in the modern workplace is more, bigger, faster. And no matter how much value we produce today, whether it's measured in dollars, sales, widgets, it's never enough. Are we in the culture that we are nurturing as leaders and as organisations settling for a pale version of the possible? And is there more that we can do? Is there a different way? I wonder what matters most to you, and what might that natural intimacy actually be? Why don't we just pause for a moment? I'd invite you to close your eyes. I'm not going to do anything weird. I'd just like you to pause for a moment. And remember what matters most to you. Just spend 30 seconds remembering. Maybe you need to get back to an art gallery or read that book that changed your life. So there is a huge challenge, I think, facing us individually and collectively. But as the writer and kind of spiritual thinker Eckhart Tolle says, we've arrived at a point of great danger, but danger also means great opportunity for change. That word, spiritual, presses all sorts of buttons, doesn't it? It's really important stuff, but it's hard to speak about. We're sort of losing the vocabulary of the spiritual, either to religious fundamentalism or to the sort of weird, kooky, esoteric stuff that is a bit scary, to be honest. But someone like Eckhart Tolle has actually managed, in a really accessible way, especially through his book, The Power of Now, just to speak some wisdom into the culture, to help people who are stuck on fast forward and burning out, actually to come back into this present moment in a way that is inclusive, accessible, sustainable, comprehensible. The trigger for profound growth always comes in the form of a major life challenge that cannot be resolved from the current world view. Don't we need a new way of being as well, and then of doing? A new way of being, and then of doing, and a deeper way of reconnecting with the intimacy, the natural intimacy that lies deep within us. I personally felt called into this space because, thanks to the scientist and philosopher Dana Zohar at Oxford, who coined the phrase spiritual intelligence to describe discoveries in neuroscience that suggest that the existence of a God spot in the brain, a neural mass. And that phrase struck me less from a scientific perspective, because I don't understand the neuroscience, but from a writerly and creative one, actually. It opens up a creative space to think, what might a spiritually intelligent leader look like? My mind immediately went to some of the churches that I've experienced, which sometimes lack a sense of spiritual intelligence. Just because you're religious doesn't mean to say that you've nurtured your spiritual intelligence. But it also goes to the people who have it. Those who have worked on their inner life, who seem to have that degree of humility, perhaps a sense of serenity or calmness under pressure, that sense of unhurried attention that they can give you even within the heat of the moment, that helps you to feel as though you are here and they are here. So Zohar argues that we have not one but three fundamental intelligences: the rational, the emotional, and the spiritual. SQ, she says, is the intelligence that rests in that deep part of the self that's connected to wisdom from beyond the ego or the conscious mind. And this is where I think several streams converge in terms of what people are saying is that we do need a new way of thinking. We can't solve the crisis with the same old way of thinking. But actually, if we listen to what some of these people are saying, that way of thinking, that wisdom comes from deeper down. But I suppose the question is how? How do we do that? I once interviewed the best-selling Irish author, philosopher, mystic and poet John O'Donoghue. And he was not your typical spiritual guru. I was waiting for him to come along. I had a breakfast meeting with him. He'd been at an arts festival, and he was 15 minutes late, and he sort of kind of wandered in, and he said, I'm really sorry for being late. He said, I met a friend last night, I haven't seen him for years, and we got a bottle of single malt whiskey, he said, and we stayed up far too late, and we drank pretty well all of the bottle. And then he leaned forward and he said, have no fear, he said, the bottle did not die without spiritual necessity. He said, what I'm telling them is that the problem is that we're going so fast that we're never stopping, and we're never thus able to overhear ourselves. Mindfulness is something that I have found has been incredibly helpful in opening up the sort of the little gap that was opened by the phrase spiritual intelligence. It's kind of out there, it's accessible, it seems for many people to work in a common sense and sustainable way that has helped to put spiritual principles back onto the agenda in a helpful way for many, many ordinary people as well as many organisations. The benefits are well documented now, aren't they? From decreasing stress to increasing creativity and strengthening relationships. Imagine if you were to go into your day today wakeful with open-hearted presence. What difference could that make to those around you, to the context in which you're about to go into next? Being present to them, non-judgmental, awake and here. Bill Plotkin warns us that actually what we may end up doing with some of these spiritual principles is just helping people to become better adapted cogs in the otherwise toxic machinery of life. And this is, I think, where it gets interesting, and this is where I would prefer to speak about soulfulness. But I think soul is manifested in three particular ways. First of all, soul speaks to us of our absolute uniqueness, of the uniqueness that we have, the fingerprint, the way of seeing the world, the me of me, the you of you, as the writer Douglas Coupland puts it. Secondly, I believe soul connects us vividly and deeply with the world around us. We have a choice in how we relate, ego to ego or soul to soul. And finally, soul is manifested, I believe, fleshed out through our work and our life, incarnated. The word became flesh. It's putting flesh on the bones. So this is not about wafting away on some spiritual plume of incense. It's not about escape. It's a way back in, physically. It's living from the inside out and seeing that made manifest. And here's the thing, we may never know what it will look like to live and work and lead soulfully until we try it. Probably the world's biggest and most powerful business consultancy approached me 2 years ago to say, we have this week-long initial leadership program for our own people all around the world. It's the crown jewels of our training, and it's a brilliant course. But what we're finding is that people simply are losing touch with their humanity, and we don't know how to reconnect them again. We need something to help reconnect them. And for all the complexity that we can talk of, I find time and time and time again it comes back to this. 20-something, 30-something, Ivy League, Oxbridge, the smartest minds in the world who are going to be influencing the governments, the biggest organisations, the NGOs, all around the world. And yet they are already losing touch with their own humanity. John O'Donoghue said to me in that conversation, he just said through the haze of that hangover, he said, soul is a dangerous thing to have. He said, it will not. He said, it links you into the infinite, whether you like it or not, and will not let you rest happily in your mediocrity and escapism. Thank you.